Zinzi Clemmons is an acclaimed writer, professor and literary scholar born to an American father and a South African mother. She's been described as one of the best debut fiction writers for 2018 by literary critics for her debut novel, What We Lose. It's an offering that takes us on a roller coaster life journey of Thandi, a young American lady battling to come to terms with the loss of her mother. Zinzi's narration of racism, love and death taps into the psyche of a woman stricken with grief and how she uses sex to try and find a sense of belonging. Well, without giving too much away, let's take this conversation further by chatting to the author herself, Zinzi Clemmons. She's here in studio. Good morning and welcome to Morning Love.
Thanks. Good morning.
Firstly, congratulations. What We Lose, receiving some fantastic reviews, including the debut novel of the year by Vogue. It must be fantastic to have your first offering be such a hit.
Yes, it's really wonderful and quite surprising. No debut novelist really plans for this.
Okay. Now, when we look at the book, I was actually saying to you off air that the cover is so beautiful and bright, and yet the number of heavy themes that you explore in this book, geez, they really take one on an emotional journey that can be heart-wrenching and forces one to tap into the places that really hurt in our lives. Tell us more about some of the themes that you explore in your book.
Well, the book itself revolves around this character of Thandi, and the main event that happens in the novel is that her mother becomes ill and eventually passes away. And that sort of brings about it sort of forces Thandi to think about where she comes from, her racial identity, her connection to South Africa, which is very strong and through her mother. And when her mother dies, it sort of throws everything else off balance, and she's forced to reckon with where she goes forward.
There seems to be a little bit of similarities between Thandi, the character, and you as the author. Were there any obvious similarities, and can you bring us into that?
There are a lot of similarities. I used my own life as material, as is, many writers often do. Much like Thandi, my mother was South African. She's actually from Joburg, not far from where we are right now. And as I was growing up, I was born in 1985. From that time until I was an adult, I came here every couple of years and spent a lot of time. So that connection to the country, the mother-daughter story, all kind of comes from my life.
Talk to us about the mixed race individuals that you also highlight in your book, and how, in your opinion, the line between South Africa and the United States and how they relate or interchange. So my mother was what is called colored here, also known as mixed race, but in the United States that sort of designation doesn't exist. So in the United States, if you are even a little bit black, they call it the one-drop rule, which is pretty much how it goes, then you're considered black, and color doesn't exist. So I was always, myself, and Thandi in the novel is one thing over here and another thing over there, and that causes a sense of confusion in regards to her identity. Let's talk about, an issue that's been out there in the public arena for quite some time and has a lot of people speaking, the hashtag #MeToo campaign. You also are one of those people who've added their voice behind the campaign. What can you tell us from your experiences about sort of the dark side of this entertainment world, and if it's any different in the literary space, just from your own experiences?
It's not. I think, the things that women in publishing have to go through are the same things women in entertainment go through, and are the same things that women, who work in the service industry, in restaurants, domestic workers. All women have to put up with a certain amount of unwanted attention. And I think what's really important, Me Too sort of started in Hollywood, and now in publishing, quite a lot of people in government. So in these sort of elite industries, but it's really important that those conversations reach down to everyone because it really is a universal issue.
So yesterday you were one of the authors who were at the Kingsmead Book Fair. I mean, the world needs more readers. Definitely we need to sort of entrench or continue to entrench the culture of reading. But what are your thoughts just around how, I mean, you have experiences of both South Africa and the United States. Do you find that in both these worlds, young people in particular are taking up and starting to subscribe to the culture of reading, or do you still think we have quite a long way to go?
Yeah, I think what really is making a difference now is that we see more books geared to different types of people. You know, there are a lot more books by Black authors, by authors of all different kinds of races and backgrounds, and that's really welcoming a lot of new people into reading. And that really needs to continue, and as long as it does, I think we'll get many more readers, many different audiences. But that is really what needs to happen.
Well, Zinzi, thank you so much for letting us into the world of Thandi. This is a phenomenal, phenomenal book. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Well, What We Lose is a raw novel written by acclaimed American writer Zinzi Clemmons, who joined us now in studio to unpack, you know, just some of the themes that she explored in her book, as well as what she'll be up to. Well, she's on a tour actually here in South Africa during her visit. So make sure that you inquire, ask around about where she'll be and connect with her where you can.